overall title is Sortedam, which is a bit difficult to translate to English. It's something like black pond, black lake, black river, black some kind of water, which is the lakes here in Copenhagen. It's the moon reflecting in water, which is close to the most stupid thing you can try to do as a painter. First of all, if you have a moon reflecting in water, it means you have two holes. And that just makes everything around those two holes very complicated.
As the moon came up in these evenings in the south of France, I just kind of presumed, took an educated guess, maybe I could take a photograph with the light of the moon. Maybe there's enough light there. So I'll just guess at 15 minutes, say, and see what happens. And I got the contact sheet back, and there was this image, which was a daylight image, which was at first a little surprising. It was this nice colour, strange colour, but there was a strangeness in the light which I couldn't determine.
I always walk, every day I walk parallel to the lakes here, and every day I just look at them. And I had this idea. I always loved the name Sortedam. It had this kind of underdressed drama. And then I just at least every month the moon rises and it reflects if there's not too many clouds. And there was one specific night where the moon was just so simple. The moon was just really bright on the sky and bright in the river. And everybody who passed by just stopped there. There was nothing to say, it's just, you just stop there.
Because we're turning, the light source being reflected light of sunlight, obviously from the moon, the light source moves during the exposure. So this softens any shadows. So this is what generates this kind of otherworldly space within the image plane. Things, obviously tides become apparent in the oceans because the ocean gets flattened, rivers get smooth, waterfalls become like mist. They occupy our kind of landscape, our dreamscape somehow. It's a landscape that we're unable to see.
When did you find out that images play an important role in your life?
When I fell into a lake when I was 6 years old. And I fell to the bottom, and I saw probably the most beautiful world I've ever seen. And it was colorful, and there was light, and these plants were moving. I mean, I see it regularly. I see it constantly, almost in my mind, in my mind's eye. It was a kind of paradise, and so I just felt that was the real world. It wasn't. It was just I was very lucky because I didn't die. My uncle saved me, but what happened was I was shown just by this accident that there's more than just the surface of life, that the real thing is under the surface.
You can't see the blackness at night, only the darkness. It's only during the day that you can see the blackness. That's when you know it's not a reflection. Black is a place. I don't know what it's like, can't see it, but I know it's there. You can go there, though it's not fixed in location. Black travels well, it's inert, incorruptible, like gold. And no matter where it is, it's always the same. You never know much about it, doesn't give much away. That's the idea of black. You just have to go there. Black is where you can suspend your faith.
I was going off into this landscape that we are no longer familiar with, which is the landscape of the night. Away from all the pollution, the light pollution that we've generated, that we surround ourselves with. The brilliance, I remember dragging a mayor of Esslingen one night. He wanted to bear witness to the act of making a full moon. So we drove out of town, and we, quite gung-ho, burst through a small wood and came out open to an open ravine, and the moon was up, it was clear, and there was this brilliance of light, extraordinary quality, very uplifting. Then we turned around after this and drove back into the town, and he looked at me just as we approached the kind of sodium lights, and he was like, God, this is so depressing.
I think I grew up in what you can call a real liberal family, because first of all, no one said anything if you were late night reading. And secondly, no one asked what you read.
I mean, I heard many of the most famous, let's say, Arabian Night stories or Eastern fables. In fact, I heard them really orally from my father, who would tell them to us as bedtime stories in his own versions of them, obviously. You know, he wouldn't read them, he would just simply tell us stories. So the first time I heard about, you know, Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves, or Sinbad the Sailor, or Aladdin, whatever, you know, was in these versions of my father.
The specific thing with my childhood was the fact that there was no mother around. She had left the family, so I grew up with my father, and he was very occupied, but I can still remember at night sometimes I could tell him something about what I've read. And he was clever enough to take 2 minutes to listen to all the stupidities that I said about what I have read. And I think it's one of the lessons that I've learned, that you always have to listen to a child.
But children's stories, I mean, apart from that Eastern tradition, in terms of Western children's stories, some of them showed up and some of them didn't. You know, I mean, as it happens, Hans Christian Andersen did show up, or at least some of them, the famous stories, you know, in an anthology, and so I did read those as a child. And was particularly struck by, I mean, in my memory, the two that I remembered that really affected me were The Snow Queen and The Shadow, which is, you can see that even as a child I had an interest in the dark side.
The pencil is black, and in fact the whole process of drawing is making a paper dirty or making a paper black on the right spots.
Dream Villa is a location in my head. It has no geography, so Dream Villa can appear anywhere, and likewise the inhabitants can appear anywhere. So I could be walking in Rungstad and see someone, and I know that they're a Dream Villa inhabitant. So it's this fictitious place that was building up in my head, and I would go out every night, starting in Goa, late at night, and just drive around till I found a Dream Villa tree or a Dream Villa house, and most importantly, a Dream Villa neon sign.
Of course, you're in the now and you have to accept that, but I am very interested in living virtually in the then. And I think it's a very interesting and a very comforting idea that I am working every day with this period that I was not existing. So every day I'm working with non-existence. And there will be a period that I will be non-existing anymore. So for me it's also a way of getting used to non-existing. I mean, dying is not, nobody likes dying. But it's comforting to know that it's a part of me. It became a part of me, a part of my identity, to think about not being.
And then many months later, I was coming back from a party in Calcutta at 2 in the morning, and I looked at this gate and I saw Dream Villa written there. And I thought, I must be really drunk. I'm imagining my project written across gates. And this was below a building that I've lived for many years. And then I came down in the morning and it was there. I photographed it at night. So the picture you see in Dream Villa is that picture I made to just be sure that it's real. And then came back in the morning to check again that it's real. And it was there. So who knows when Dream Villa really entered my subconscious or my dream world.
There are two things that rise above the earth. There is the sun, and I guess we live more from the sun than we live from the moon. But the sun is also quite rejecting, because you're going to burn your eyes if you look into it.
It's nearer to us in terms of history. The history of the light is closer to us, it's more palpable, it's more tangible. You know, the light from the sun, I mean, you can't look into the light. It's quite hard to shoot. You get strong shadows. It's quite harsh. It's quite aggressive. Obviously, light is the thing that generates life. I mean, this we know. So this is why we stare in. This is why we're drawn to it. It's a life provider, but the reflective light enables us to see further. I think you can see further through the dark than you can in the bright light. The moon will stay. We won't, you know. So we have this point of reference. That's the sculpture that belongs to everybody on the planet.
So the moon is somehow more for us. It rises at night, and nighttime is, somebody say, daytime is more clever than nighttime. Other people would say the opposite, but somehow nighttime is a clever time. I don't think the sun sees anything. I think the moon sees a lot.
I set out one night when the tide was low.